Hey, what's up, guys? This is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our DraftKings Benny's Bats Major League Baseball edition for Wednesday, April 20th. To all those of you out there, happy Earth Day. To all our college buddies out there who watch us, happy 420 Day. Hope everybody has a good time today. What we like to do here at the Benny's Bats section is we try to go through each pitcher that's on the mound tonight, try to figure out what their weakness is, and then figure out which bats are the ones that profile to do the best against them. We have a pretty nice 13-game slate that starts at the 7 o'clock Eastern time tonight, so that's what we're going to be concentrating on. So with all those games, let's get right into it. First game we're going to talk about, New York Mets at the Philadelphia Phillies. Bartolo Colon is going for the New York Mets today. And he's been equal to righty and left-handed batters, giving up about a 286 batting average over the course of the last season and a half. I don't really know how he does it. He throws nothing but fastballs. He's very good at hitting his spots. Some games he looks great and he looks unhittable. Other games he looks like he's going to give up 15 runs. It's never fun. It's never easy, but he is very cheap on most of the sites today. And if you look at his recent game logs, he is somebody that can easily return 3 or 4 times value to you. So, you got to keep it in mind when you're filling out your teams. Like I said, I don't know exactly how he gets it done. The numbers don't back it up. I don't have anything tangible to give you guys, but Colon's been pretty solid and he's always cheap on every one of these sites. So he's a decent option as a pitcher. And part of the reason why is I just really don't like this Phillies lineup. I mean, you're looking down the list here. I guess Maikel Franco is about the only guy who really kind of, profiles well against them. 352 WOBA, 192 ISO score. Franco's 0 for 5 lifetime against Colon, though. So, like I said, I mean, I know we do the bat section here, and I'm usually trying to find bats, but when I can't find any bats to use against a guy, that's usually a good sign that, he's in a pretty decent spot. So I do like Colon a little bit today. Not really a fan of any of the Phillies bats. On the other side of that game, we got Jeremy Hellickson. Hellickson was off to a hot start. Normally, you want to target left-handed bats against him, though. Left-handed bats hit 273 against him last year with a 1.45 whip. So there's a lot of left-handed bats on this Mets team. Michael Conforto is, really showing that he's a solid player here. 375 WOBA, 257 ISO, jacked out a home run early in the game yesterday. They had him hitting up towards the top of the order. I mean, this kid is going to be a pretty good player for this Mets team. So he's probably my top option to go up and attack Hellickson. I also think you can look at guys like Duda, 371 WOBA, 248 ISO over the course of the last 2.5 seasons. Curtis Granderson, 348, 192. Even a guy like Neil Walker towards the bottom of the lineup who hit a home run yesterday. Another solid left-handed bat that the Mets brought in this year. So I think all those guys are in play. You always got to look at a guy like Cespedes who has a lot of power, does very well in righty-on-righty matchups. And even David Wright lately has been hitting the ball pretty well. So there's quite a few guys on this Mets team that I think they can attack Hellickson with. I do expect the Mets to put up some runs here. I do expect Colon to get the win, which is why he's always going to be in play at the cheap price that he's at. Don't love his upside. He can strike a couple guys out. Like I said, he does throw a lot of fastballs. Very good at hitting his spots with them and keeping hitters off balance. When he's missing the spots, that's when he gets hit. And when he does get hit, he gets hit hard. So it's definitely a GPP play, definitely a high upside play kind of deal. But I do like these Mets bats. They're coming off a big game yesterday as well, so I definitely think you can look at these guys. Next guy we're going to talk about on the other side of town, we got Oakland going up against the New York Yankees. Nathan Eovaldi's on the mound, another hard-throwing right-hander for the New York Yankees. He's already allowed 9 runs in only 11 innings pitched so far this year, and left-handed bats are usually the way you want to go after him. 314 average with 1.72 whip against lefties last season. He did only give up 4 home runs in 69 innings, so guys aren't hitting home runs and jacking out of the park against him, but left-handed bats are hitting them pretty well. A few guys on Oakland I think we should look at. Josh Reddick probably stands out as the top one. 363 WOBA, 217 ISO. Definitely think he's going to be a good play today. Has been hitting in the 3 hole lately, so as long as he's hitting up there in the order, somebody you got to respect, especially with left-handed power stick at Yankee Stadium, the short porch in right field. I think it's a good spot for him. 2 other guys that I'm going to look at. Yesterday, they had Chris Coughlin hitting second, and they tend to do that when they play a right-handed pitcher. Coughlin is a left-handed bat, very good against righties, so I expect him to be up towards the top of the order. And then the other guy is Stephen Vogt, the catcher who's been hitting fifth lately for them. Again, another one of these big left-handed power sticks. Somebody at Yankee Stadium should be in a good spot to hit. Should be up towards the top of the order, hitting in that 5-hole with a couple guys on in front of them to knock around. So I think some of those Oakland bats are definitely in play. A good stadium bump that they're getting as well. So there's a lot going in their favor. On the other side of the mound, we have Kendall Graveman pitching for the Oakland Athletics. He's given up about a 275 batting average to both righties and lefties. Righties actually have more home runs against him, but lefties have a higher whip. So I hear he has a higher whip against lefties. So lefties have been getting on base more. Righties have been hitting them out of the park a little more. So I think you can actually look at guys from both sides of the plate. A couple guys in the Yankees who do well against right-handed pitching. Mark Teixeira, 360 WOBA, 265 ISO. Going to be batting lefty in Yankee Stadium, short porch. Same thing that we just said about all these other lefties on Oakland. Definitely think he's a play. Carlos Beltran is another one, 353 WOBA, 197 ISO. He may not be the player that he was when he was a star, but he's still a lot better than an average player. So I think he's somebody else to look at. And then the guy who's probably been the hottest lately for the Yankees has been Brett Gardner. He's got 20-plus fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 games. Again, another left-handed bat near the top of the order. At home at Yankee Stadium. So I think Gardner's a good, solid option we can look at as well. Next game we're going to talk about, we got Toronto at Baltimore. Ubaldo Jimenez is going to be pitching for Baltimore, and he's actually been pretty tough at home. Right-handed bats, reverse splits has actually been the way to get him, though, which is a little bit tough here for him against this Toronto team. Right-handed bats last year at 290 against him with a 1.52 whip. The guy who actually stands out the most just based on the numbers is Michael Saunders. He's been leading off lately for Toronto, 4 of 11 lifetime against Ubaldo Jimenez. The problem that I have with all these other right-handed bats that you would think are going to be in play, the guys like Joey Batista and Donaldson and Edwin Encarnacion and Tulo and Russ Martin, is all these guys have some pretty bad numbers against Jimenez. Jimenez has been pretty good against this Toronto team, and he is a lot better when he's pitching at home in Baltimore. So put him back in Baltimore at home against a team that has been struggled to hitting. So, yeah, you look at the numbers, bats, Encarnacion, Donaldson, all these guys should be in a good spot here, but they all have really bad lifetime numbers against Ubaldo Jimenez, like 4 for 30 and, 5 for 27, stuff like that. So, like I said, you look at the numbers and you say, these guys should be in a good spot. You look at the way that this team has been hitting, though. They have not been putting up a lot of runs with the top of that order. And you look at how they have hit in the past against Jimenez, it just gives me a little bit of pause. So if people are telling you Toronto's a great stack today, I can see the reason why they would be saying that, but I also have some concern with it. So just keep that in mind. Next guy we'll talk about on the other side of this game, R.A. Dickey going up for Toronto against this Baltimore team. He actually has pretty good numbers against a lot of the big bats on Baltimore as well. With a guy like Dickey, the thing that I like to do is just look at the BVP, because he's basically the only guy that throws the knuckleball. And you can either hit a knuckleball or you can't hit a knuckleball. And a lot of the other numbers that we would look at, the ISOs, the WOBAs, all that stuff, those aren't coming against knuckleballs. So we're not really getting a true read on how this player could do today. The thing that I think gives us the truest read against Dickey is basically just looking at how guys have done against Dickey in the past. So the only guy that really stands out here on Baltimore for me is Manny Machado, who, remember, is both shortstop and third base eligible now on DraftKings. Price is pretty reasonable, 5 of 16 lifetime against R.A. Dickey. I don't think he has a home run, probably just a couple singles and a double or so, but he's going to be up at the top of the order. And like I said, when you're looking at the BVP, he's really the one guy who does have some numbers against Dickey, some history against him. So he's probably the guy that I'd be looking at. Next game we can talk about, we got the Dodgers against Atlanta. Julio Teheran got pushed off. So basically everything I said about Teheran yesterday, I'm going to say about him again here. Left-handed bats hit 300 against him with the 173 whip. So guys like Corey Seager, 394 WOBA, 198 ISO is in play. Adrian Gonzalez, 372 WOBA, 232 ISO, 412 lifetime with the home run. He's going to be in play. And then Yasiel Puig, who we talked about yesterday, very good in righty-on-righty matchups, and he's 4 for 6 lifetime with a double and a home run against Julio Teheran. So those are the 3 guys that I'm really looking to target on that Dodgers team. But again, with the way he struggled against left-handed bats, if they start throwing, if you want to throw in like a Chase Utley, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Maybe even a Grandal from, hitting from the left side. There's quite a few. If there's a couple left-handed bats in there, you can look at those guys. they're the ones who usually do best against Teheran. So I like the lefties, and I also really like Puig, who's good in righty on righty spots and also has good BVP against Teheran already in his career. Now, on the other side of this game, we got the rookie Ross Stripling. Limited innings pitch. He is a right-handed pitcher, though. You know, he basically had a no-hitter going into the 7th when they pulled him, and I think he wound up losing the game because the guy that he walked wound up scoring, and, you know, that was the winning run. But he's been really good since he's come up. In the minors, he was a little bit worse to left-handed bats. Now, I don't really love this Atlanta Braves team. I don't think they have a lot of big bats on the lineup. You know, basically the one guy who I would be a little bit scared of is Freddie Freeman. 387 WOBA, 205 ISO number, left-handed bat against a right-handed pitcher. You know, but that's really it. I mean, there's not much else I want to target here. I like Adonis Garcia, but I like him more against left-handed pitching. When they face a righty, I like Freeman. When they face a lefty, I like Garcia. And that's pretty much it as far as the Braves go. Next game we can talk about, Tampa Bay at Boston. We got Chris Archer on the mound. Now, Archer was great in 2015. He had a lights-out season. It was like 220 to one side of the plate, 205 to the other side of the plate. Didn't give up a lot of runs, was striking guys out left and right. Absolutely phenomenal. So far in 2016, that has not been the case, though. 15 innings pitched, 22 hits allowed, 12 earned runs. That's tough. I mean, you know, you look at it, you know the guy's a good pitcher. We watched him do it last year. You know he has talent. But right now he's not pitching well. So I guess he could be a guy that we want to target against. The main guy that stands out to me is going to be David Ortiz against right-handed pitching. 393 WOBA as a left-handed bat, 291 ISO score. He's 9 of 26 lifetime against Archer with 2 home runs. So Ortiz is definitely somebody in play. How much further down the list you want to go with this Boston team is up to you. I'm not really looking to target a whole bunch of guys against Archer because I do think he's a good pitcher. I think he just had a little bit of a rough luck and a rough start to the season. So other than Ortiz, I'm not looking to target anybody. If you do want to go in there and grab some of these other left-handed bats, I'm not going to stop anybody. I'm not going to tell them that they're crazy. You know, I think it could be a viable option to go, but at the same point in time, it's something I'd only do in a tournament because I could see Archer going out there and being dominant just as easily as I could see him going out there and giving up 5 runs in 4 innings and, you know, leaving the game early. So just keep that in mind. I'm not using Archer, not on him today, but he's a good enough pitcher where I don't think it makes a lot of sense that we target a lot of bats on this, you know, Red Sox team. I think there are some softer spots that we can go after. One of those softer spots would be on the other side of this game with Rick Porcello going up for the Boston Red Sox. Now, last year he was bad to both righties and lefties. 286 average to both sides of the plate, had a whip of about 1.35 to both sides of the plate. Now, there are quite a few guys that you can target here because, like we said, righties, lefties, everybody basically did well against them. Corey Dickerson's the guy that stands out most on the numbers. 413 WOBA, 285 ISO. Remember, though, a lot of those numbers came in Coors Field over the course of the last 2.5 years. I'm still waiting to see him do something outside of Coors Field before I really jump on the bandwagon and say, you know, yeah, those are the numbers that he has. You know, Coors Field has a tendency to bump everybody's numbers up, so I don't know how much of a bump he's going to be getting by not playing in Coors anymore. Does it drop it, you know, 25, 30 basis points, in which case he's still a 380, 200 kind of guy, and we would really want him in our lineups? Does it drop at 50 to 100 points to the point where, you know, he's a 320 WOBA kind of guy with a 150 ISO score? If that's the case, we don't want him in our lineup. So as of now, I'm still giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think Corey Dickerson's in a pretty good spot here today. Would be somebody that I take a look at against Porcello. The other guy that I would look at is Logan Forsythe, and it's mostly because he's leading off up at the top of the order. He's pretty cheap. He's second base eligible, which is a tough position to fill, and he is 4-10 lifetime against Porcello, so he does have a little bit of a track record. Next game we can talk about is Washington going up against Miami. Joe Ross is throwing for Washington, and I really like this guy. He's incredibly tough on right-handed bats. Right-handed bats at well under 200 against them. Left-handed bats, though, did hit 279 with the 1.59 whip. So the guys we'd probably be looking at here are the left-handed bats on Miami. Guys like Christian Yelich, 346 ISO, 346 WOBA, 126 ISO. Not a ton of power, but he is hitting in that 3-hole, very solid average hitter. Makes contact, does pretty well that way. D. Gordon, if you want to look at him leading off, he gets on base. You know he's going to be looking to steal. He leads off. He's got some better bats behind him this year, so a better chance to get driven in. His price is a little bit elevated on a lot of these sites, but again, Ross was pretty bad to left-handed bats, and had a whip of almost 1.6. So I do think D. Gordon can get on base and cause a little havoc, score a couple runs. The only other two guys you can look at here, Justin Bour and Derek Dietrich, two left-handed bats that saw more time last season than they've seen so far early in this season. Both of them could be guys that are in play against Russ as well. Miami, not the greatest hitters ballpark. I'm not looking for a ton of runs in this game, but if you did want to target somebody, those would be the guys that you'd probably want to look at. On the other side of this game, we got the lefty, Wei-Yin Chen, going for Miami. Right-handed bats hit 274 against him with a 1.32 whip, 25 home runs allowed in 142 innings pitched. So better than one every 6 innings. I think you want to look at some of the power bats here. Even in a lefty-lefty matchup, Bryce Harper was 402, 223 last year. He's 3 of 12 lifetime against Wei-Yin Chen as well. So, that's something to keep in mind. We got the right-handed bats that did pretty well yesterday. Guys like Zimmerman, 401 WOBA, 267 ISO last 2.5 years, 3 for 9 lifetime against Chen. You can look at a guy like Wilson Ramos if he's in a game. You can look at a guy like Jason Worth, 373 WOBA, 206 ISO score. He was 1 for 3 in his only game against Chen last year. So I do like these right-handed bats on Washington. Although, again, like I said, not the greatest hitters ballpark, not really looking to target them heavy. But I do think they have a pretty good game here against Chen. Next game we can talk about is Detroit at KC. We got Jordan Zimmerman going for Detroit. Left-handed bats hit 284 against them last year with a whip of 1.39. So Eric Hosmer is probably my favorite, 349 WOBA, 157 ISO score. But you can also look at the same guys we mentioned yesterday, guys like Mike Moustakas, guys like Morales, guys like Alex Gordon. These are the guys that you want to really have in your lineup. This is a team that the Royals don't make a lot of outs. And what I mean by that is, you really got to make them work for it. They're going to put the ball in play. They're not going to strike out. They're not going to do dumb stuff on the base paths. This is a team that you really got to make sure that you maximize every out. And the problem with that is it's also a team that just kind of, death by paper cuts, single here, walk there, double here, an occasional home run from a 6, 7, or 8 batter in the lineup. I mean, they have a lineup where top to bottom, everybody is solid, everybody's professional, everybody makes the pitcher work, and you never really know where the production is going to come from. It's not like, some of these other teams where, the 3, 4, 5 batters are going to have, 350 of the team's 600 RBIs on the season or something like that. It basically comes from top to bottom with this Royals team, so it makes it very tough to use them for daily fantasy. Next game we can talk about, Houston Astros at the Texas Rangers. Cole Hamels is pitching for the Rangers, which is a tough spot here for me because he's a very good pitcher, but right-handed bats are obviously the way you want to attack a lefty like him. Now you look at that Houston lineup, you got Jose Altuve leading off, 426 WOBA, 163 ISO over the last 2.5 seasons against left-handed pitching. 2014, he had over a 400 batting average against lefties. So obviously, this guy likes left-handed pitching. He's somebody that I think you gotta look at, even though he is expensive. George Springer and Carlos Correa hitting in the 2 and the 3 hole. Both guys have over 380 WOBAs. Both guys have ISOs around the 230 mark. I think both of those guys are right-handed bats. Both of those guys are going to be in play against the lefty and Cole Hamels. Now, again, Hamels is a good lefty. He only gave up like a 227 batting average even to right-handed bats last year. But again, all these guys are lefty mashers, so I think all these guys are going to be people who you deserve to give a look to. You also got Tyler White. Tyler White's going to be hitting cleanup. Young first baseman for this Houston team. Has had a pretty good start to the season. He's been pretty solid. He actually has the best WOBA and ISO numbers on the team, but he doesn't really have enough at bats to qualify or for me to consider that to be a suitable sample size. But again, he's another guy who hits left-handed pitching well. So I don't think this is going to be an easy spot for Hamels. I definitely wouldn't be looking to roll him out there, although I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up with 7 or 8 Ks because this is a free swinging team. So when they connect, they'll hit a couple home runs, but when they don't connect, they do strike out quite a bit. The other side of this game, we got Doug Fister pitching for Houston. Right-handed bats hit 327 with a 1.56 whip against them in 2015. But if you look further back at his numbers, it's usually left-handed bats that do best against him from, 2014 and before. So I'm going to probably target the left-handed bats more. Guys like Prince Fielder, guys like Mitch Moreland, guys like the rookie, Nomar Mazara. He's hitting in the 2 hole. This kid is very, very good. He's still pretty cheap on some sites. Sites where he's dirt cheap, it's not even a question. You should be rolling him out there, especially in this matchup that he has here today with Fister. When the price is a little bit higher, yeah, he doesn't make as much sense to be a lock, but I still think he's somebody that's in play. I also think Adrian Beltre deserves a look as well. He's a guy who hits pretty well in righty on righty matchups. Fister's not really going to blow anybody away. Definitely hittable. Somebody that guys put the ball in play against. So I think Beltre could be another guy to look at. Next game we're going to talk about here is Minnesota against Milwaukee. We got Jimmy Nelson pitching for Milwaukee, and he's been lights out to right-handed bats. So right-handers are definitely not hitting him. Left-handers had a 302 average with a 168 whip and 11 homers in 72 innings. Now, there aren't a lot of lefties on this Twins lineup that actually scare me. As a matter of fact, this Twins lineup as a whole doesn't really scare me. They've been one of the worst in baseball, one of the ones you really want to target against. They got a high strikeout rate. They're not scoring a lot of runs. Their batting average as a team is very low. Everything that you want when you're targeting a pitcher against them. So I really like Jimmy Nelson going up against this team. The only guy who stands out to me a little bit is Miguel Sano, 377 WOBA since he's come up with a 245 ISO score. He hasn't had the greatest start to the season, and I think that has a lot to do with why the Twins are struggling. He's one of their biggest bats hitting in the 3-hole, and if he's not hitting, they're not driving in runs, they're not extending innings, they're not getting guys on base. I really like Nelson here a lot more than I like any of the Twins bats, but Sano would be the one if you put a gun to my head and told me that I had to take a guy on the Twins. The other side of this game, we got Tommy Maloney going up against, this Milwaukee team. Right-handed bats hit 273 against him with the 132 whip. Did give up 14 homers to righties in 96 innings. So a guy like Ryan Braun makes a lot of sense to me. 375 WOBA, 233 ISO, probably the biggest right-handed bat against left-handed pitching that the Brewers have on their team. Definitely going to have a little bit of exposure to him. Domingo Santana, 369 WOBA, 213 ISO score against left-handed pitching as well. So the leadoff man for the Brewers right now, Santana, another guy I think you can take a look at. And then you got Chris Carter with his big power numbers, 347 WOBA, 238 ISO number. And remember, he's basically a hit or miss kind of guy. He either hits the ball a far way and usually winds up with a home run, or he strikes out, which is the other thing that he does a lot. So, keep that in mind. Definitely a GPP only kind of thing. Although I do really like Braun, and I think as of now I have him in both my cash lineup and one or two of the tournament lineups I made as well. Next game, talk about Pittsburgh at San Diego. Jeff Locke is going up for Pittsburgh, left-handed pitcher. Left-handers actually had a higher average against them last year, but normally right-handed bats is the way you want to attack them. A couple guys in the middle of that San Diego order I guess you can look at. I mean, based on the numbers, nobody really stands out. This is not a great hitting team. But guys like Derek Norris, catcher eligible, maybe a Matt Kemp, maybe a Will Myers. These are the right-handed bats that have been doing a little bit of damage for San Diego lately. I'm not an Alexi Amarista guy, although he's cheap in a lot of spots, and a couple people have been rolling him out there. I've been seeing his name a little more often. He has been hitting up towards the top of the order, but I just don't think he does enough for me. If you're taking him, you're really taking him hoping that you can get a stolen base or two out of him. Otherwise, there's really not much upside. On the other side of this game, we have Drew Pomerantz, former Oakland A's pitcher. Left-handed pitcher, right-handed bats hitting 260 against him last year with a 142 whip. So there are a few guys on that Pirates team we can target. Really like Andrew McCutcheon, 399 WOBA, 217 ISO. Feel like this guy goes low owned every day, and I feel like this is one of those spots where he could have a big game. Francisco Cervelli, as far as catchers go, 362 WOBA, 156 ISO. So he's in a pretty good spot here at a weak position. And then also Josh Harrison, the second baseman. He's had some really good games. He's averaging over double digits in his last 5 games. 350 WOBA, 115 ISO doesn't really jump off the page at you. But again, he's a right-handed hitter going up against a left-handed pitcher. Unfortunately, they still got him buried down in the 6 or 7 hole in this order. I would really like to see him get moved up because he has been playing well lately. But you know what? I'm not the manager, so it's not really my call. Last game of the night, Arizona at San Francisco. Madison Bumgarner going for San Fran. Left-handed bats only hit 206 against him last year. Right-handed bats hit 226. He has seen this Arizona team quite a bit, and there are a couple guys who have hit him pretty well. Paul Goldschmidt, 461 WOBA, 241 ISO against left-handed pitching. Definitely somebody you got to look at. 12 of 38 lifetime with 2 home runs against Madison Bumgarner. So not only does he profile well, but he's also shown us in the past that he can do it. So that's what we like when we get confirmation on it. Definitely want to have some Goldie shares today. Yasmani Tomas, who had a big game a couple of days ago, 374 WOBA, 236 ISO numbers. So those aren't bad numbers either. That's nothing to sneeze at. He's 3 of 9 lifetime against Bumgarner too. So I think he's in a pretty good spot here today. And then the last guy you can take a look at if you're looking for a little pop out of the catcher spot, Beef Wellington Castillo, 344 WOBA, 206 ISO. We saw this guy hit some big home runs last year. I would have preferred this game to be in Arizona if I was going to take him for a, one-shot home run kind of deal. But with the game being in San Francisco, like I said, I don't love him as much, but I do still think he's a viable option that, you can consider. On the other side of this game, we got Zach Greinke, and Greinke has not had a good start to 2016. 17 innings pitched, 22 hits allowed, 5 base on balls, 13 earned runs. That's not the Zach Greinke that I know from last year, who was, basically a Cy Young Award candidate for almost the entire season. With the numbers that we see now and the way he's been pitching now, you got to take the guy that you have now, not the guy that you hope that he is or wanted him to be. So a guy like Buster Posey, 363 WOBA, 153 ISO, 8 of 26 lifetime against Greinke for a 306 batting average. You got Denard Span, 362 WOBA, 137 ISO, 10 of 33 lifetime for a 303 average. And then even Brandon Belt, 358 WOBA, 212 ISO, 5 of 17 lifetime, 294 batting average with the home run against Greinke. So a lot of these bats, again, with him being on the Dodgers, a lot of these guys have seen him multiple times. You got some big sample sizes you can look at, and a lot of it favors the hitters on San Francisco. So not really looking to take a lot of hitters in this game. A lot of pitchers in this game. Both Bumgarner and Greinke are 2 of the better pitchers on the day. But again, these teams have some pretty good BVP history against them. It didn't work out all that well yesterday with the Marlins and Strasburg. But again, you follow the numbers for a reason, because they paint a picture for you, a clearer picture that you can see. And the picture that it's painting is that, these teams have hit these guys in the past. So you want to be a little bit cautious. And that wraps it up for the Wednesday edition of Benny's Bats. Again, thank you guys for joining us here at rotocurve.com. And as always, stay classy, DFS.